Hi, everyone. My name is Jared Kearney. I want to thank you for this opportunity to talk to you about Asia Union Electronic Chemicals, or AUECC, today. It was a great invite. I appreciate John reaching out to us and getting us involved with your organization. It's some of your upcoming events, even from recruiting and talent acquisition, already seem appealing to me. So I look forward to being more part of your organization. We created a presentation for the group today that I'll share with you. We took some drone video, some moving video, and then I backed it up with some still slides. So if you see me skipping around just a bit, I just want to make sure I had a backup plan in case the video freezes on everybody, that we don't get caught in an awkward situation. So anyways, I joined AUECC back in 2019, late in the year. My background is in environmental health and safety management. I spent the last 26 years in the building products industry, and I also worked with building products also in the metals industry, worked for Alcoa and Johns Manville. And I was fortunate enough to come along and join AUCC on their quest to build their first plant in North America. And I'm excited to show you all about what we're doing here, and hopefully answer some questions at the end of the presentation that may come out. And thanks again, NCET, for giving us the opportunity to highlight our business here and Waltham Way here. This has been a really exciting opportunity for us to present a business plan that we've been working on since 2015. And, for us, we're starting to come to light on production here and finishing our phase one and starting our phase two construction. And eventually, hopefully, one of these days, we'll be able to tour you through the plant in person. So Asia Union, or AUECC, has been specializing in our producing and distributing ultra-pure products for the microelectronics industry. We work directly with chip manufacturers or semiconductors. We also assist in the flat panel displays and also in the solar industry. Our prime focus really is around the semiconductor industry in North America. Most of the flat panel and also the solar is done overseas. But our company's been, in business since 1998. Our president, Curtis Dove, he's been in the industry for 40 years, and he's well integrated into the community, and he's worked with other ultra pure products before joining to AUECC. Our company has locations in Taiwan. That's where our headquarters is at. We have 2 manufacturing locations in Taiwan. We have a manufacturing location in China and also in Thailand. So we cover Asia very well. And as you'll see through the slides here, we follow where the chip manufacturing is, or the fabricators or the fabs are at. And, when you're trying to import chemicals from overseas to Intel or Samsung and Tower Jazz or Micron in the US, they're facing some significant challenges for having a domestic supplier. And this is where our business plan made sense for us to set up shop here in North America. RENA really fit the bill real well for us because we're kind of in the beltway between Washington and Austin. And then we have 3 real nice ports close to us if we do need to import chemicals from our sister facilities in Asia. The whole evolving manufacturing processes in semiconductors is really improving over the years. There's a theory called Moore's Law. It's not more empirical, but rather a process for continuous improvement to improve the chip efficiency by making it smaller, making it more efficient, and making it more powerful. And when you move that chip design to a smaller fashion, when we're moving from a 16 nanometer down to a 10, and they're talking the 7 and 5 nanometer chips, the chemistry that is used to clean those devices has to also follow suit for purities, because that way we don't end up short circuiting out the circuits in these very small nanometer levels. With adding the Reno facility, it also is improving the global supply chain. And I think everybody probably in this forum today has heard something where the microelectronics industry is facing some sort of a shortage or a slowing production down. And all the chip manufacturers are looking to make sure that their supply chains are solid and their supply chains are constant and reliable. And this is where we really are coming in here to help fit the bill. Here's a snapshot of our facility, and we'll do a little drone flyover. But our facility sits on about 53 acres in Story County off of Waltham Way. This was the former Alcoa facility that we took over. We've been in the building since 2017, working through the adjustments of their processes and adjusting the building to our processes. I'll call it the walls of the building, the structure, the foundation, and some of the equipment for Alcoa that left us turned out to be a perfect match. And then where it wasn't, we've gone and did the necessary demolition work. We have about 110,000 square feet of building space in the main building. And then we have some outer buildings that will support some of our other chemical distillation, such as solvent distillation and solvent storage, just from a safety impact that, we're really focused on the environmental impacts and safety aspects because of the materials we're dealing with. So AUECC does not generate or produce the molecules that we're cleaning up. We purchase industrial grade materials from various sources. Some of the sulfuric acid that we'll buy and some of the anhydrous ammonia that we'll buy will come right out of the Martinez, California or Stockton, California areas. Some of the nitric and hydrochloric acid will also be domestic and then also Asia supplied. But when we bring the materials in, we're going to take them from an industrial grade and pull them into a technical or an ultra pure stage. And the phases or the manufacturing techniques that we'll use will be either gas absorption. We'll do a phase change of the material from a liquid to a gas. Back to a liquid using a distillation techniques. We'll do high purity filtering, since we'll be measuring particles down into the micron levels. And we'll also do blending of acids, making special acid compounds that are unique to each fabrication shop's needs for making those chips. And then the really nice thing about AUECC is we can accommodate an R&D small quantity batch, 1 liter bottles up to our 12,000 liter ISO tankers that we own and that we're shipping back and forth between Asia and North America. And that fleet, is evolving across the ocean. And now with the Reno facility here, those will just be shipped through the local highways versus trying to travel through ports. The two pictures down there just kind of give you a perspective of the internal of the plant, of the packaging lines. The photo on the left is our drum and tote filling area. The area on the right where you see the 80-ton crane up in the rafters is what will be used to move our 12,000 liter tanks off the trucks into the plant for filling and loading and then reloading back onto the trucks. So as I said, our whole business is around ultra pure acids and bases. And these are the product lines that we have actually finished construction and are awaiting approvals from our customers. There's some small permitting that we're working on the final loose ends with the chemical accident prevention team with the state of Nevada. And then you can see as our construction continues with phase 2 and phase 3 into 2022, it'll finish up our HF processes. All of these materials are in high demand with the chip manufacturing because it's an all-time record. The output and the growth in microelectronics will continue. So it's important that we're able to provide the necessary chemicals they need for their growth as well. We're going to do a flyover the south side of our facility here. Right now, you're looking at our exterior raw material tank farm, where we'll be able to bring in our I'll call industrial grade product at that point and store it on site. We anticipate we'll have a 3 to 5 week supply of just raw materials. So any given outage will not affect us from being able to continue production until we can resupply our incoming materials. The tank farm, we have 14 tanks in there, ranging typically in about 5,000 to 7,000 gallons worth of product. The ISO containers I was talking about, this is our fleet of our 12,000 liter containers. They're a stainless steel vessel that's Teflon lined to ensure that the materials that we ship are kept in ultra pure. They're not picking up impurities from the containers they're sitting in. And we have several hundred of these in our company that we're able to dedicate to the customer, to the chemistry, and be able to have enough of them floating around to making sure that they're not going to run out of supply. Kind of shooting around, you're going to see the back part of the utilities of our facility. As I said, we're sitting in about 53 acres of property. And when we did the initial concepts of the business, we wanted to be able to, we could sustain here effectively in the event of power outages, water shortages, cooling tower capabilities, industrial sewage discharge, and so on. And so what you're seeing in the photos, the green box on the right is our Cummins generator. We have a 1,400 horsepower generator to be able to sustain a power outage. The folks down in Texas really took a really big hit with those cold storms. It really took them out. So not only with backup power, we can sustain operations, but in emergency situations as well. We have cooling capabilities and holding of cooling water if we need to put in a holding spot for blowdowns. The two white stacks in the background up against the building, those are wet scrubber units. We have implemented some great engineering for not only for operator safety inside the process rooms, but we're also be able to treat any emissions that would leave our process through a wet scrubbing unit. So we have our caustics, and then we have our acids, and then we have our lab and packaging scrubbers. So all three scrubbing units are designed in order to take care of the emissions and mitigate any emergency issues. I'll go ahead and continue with the fly around. Our shipping department's on the west end of the property, so we have docks to be able to load the drums and totes into our dry vans or refrigerated containers for chemistry environments so they don't freeze. Some of our chemistry freezes at 50 and 65 degrees F. We're swinging around. You can see we have a great power supply coming right off of NV Energy's power station into our local distribution here. We also had the two fire tanks in the background. We're fully set up with our own fire system here. We hold 300,000 gallons of fire water on site. We also have two Detroit fire diesel pumps to pump water through our system. And you'll see in a few minutes, not only have boiler capacity, and we're targeting almost zero discharge here. We'll actually, other than domestic waste, we will neutralize all of our waste generated on site. We'll actually distill it and reutilize the clean water in our cooling process. Any of the condensed solids that will come out of that over time, it might be a small waste stream that we'll send out, but we're very proud of what we have done to put the engineering in place here to minimize our environmental impacts. This part of the photo here is kind of the backbone of our plant. We are on well water here, and we're going to use our well water to make ultra pure water. So ultra pure is we're going to look to reduce all mineral content and metals into our pure water to parts per trillion. We target down to 10 parts per trillion on most of the materials except for boron. Boron's very prevalent. We have a little higher standard on that. But overall, our ultra pure water our ultra pure water system consists of sand filtration, softened water, We have an electronic deionization unit, an EDI unit, and we have a reverse osmosis unit, mixed resin beds, and also we have a ultraviolet light to mitigate any growth. That water is extremely important to it when we start mixing ammonia gas with that water to make ammonium hydroxide, which is one of the critical materials that the chip manufacturers need in their process. I'm going to pick up the video again here, and you'll see in the background, this is our waste neutralization center, where we're able to neutralize any acids or bases in our system, bring them back to a pH of 7, and then we'll put them in these green holding tanks here. When we have enough capacity, we'll move that over to our boiler, where we'll distill the wastewater over, and we're going to recover that distillate to put in our cooling tower to again improve that we're not discharging to the publicly owned treatment works. So we have quite a capacity here to maintain the washing, cleaning, and any ancillary waste that comes out. This is another photo of one of our utilities. The silver unit is our evaporator that we're going to clean up and distill our wastewater, and then you'll see the boiler in the background. So again, the utilities that we put in place here at AUECC was really not just to look at our current needs, but really give us the expansion capabilities if we wanted to continue to grow and max out our business here. These next set of photos, you'd be leaving the front office and starting to walk into the main plant underneath the 100,000 square foot building. And when we took over the business from Alcoa, we had to do quite a bit of retrofitting in the plant to come up to current life safety codes, the current fire safety codes. And we invested quite a bit of money to build unique process rooms for each chemistry. These process rooms are really, designed for containment, for purity, for housekeeping, and also to just give a single focus for that chemistry, so there's no possibility of any contamination from any other processes. We were walking down the aisleway, which will come through our blending and our ammonia rooms, which is ammonium hydroxide and ammonium fluoride. You can see on the walls the blinking green light is a andon light to help our operators know that there's no leaks, there's no risk of any atmospheric air shortage due to the use of nitrogen in the rooms. We also have sensors for ammonia detection and acid gas detection. They're all contained, like I said, with viewing windows. So if our customers come in and want to get an up close look and do an audit of our facilities, they'll know exactly what we're doing. The rooms have human machine interfaces, or HMIs, for the operators to open and close valves, and also to make any adjustments for flow of materials or turning pumps on and off. This is one of our blending mix rooms. So not only can we make dedicated chemistries, but there is occasions when we'll need to mix a phosphoric, a nitric, and acetic acid together, or some variation, including a surfactant. These small blending tanks allow us to do small scale production to meet those unique R&D needs of our customers. And we're seeing, as chip manufacturers are continuing to look to improve their process, we're also trying to give them the competitive edge for doing research work. The room that you're seeing here is an example of a process room. They're probably 40 by 40 with about a 45-foot ceiling. They're all contained with emergency exhaust system, leak detection. And then all the piping here is very unique and specialized to AUECC. Obviously, it's stainless steel on the outside, but on the internal linings of the equipment here, it's all Teflon coated with some proprietary and development that we did with some of the manufacturers of this PFA and PTFE linings. That lining helps keep our chemistry clean as it's processing through the plant. And so everything you see is basically got like a garden hose, an ultra pure garden hose running through it that will last for years and years and years to ensure what we produce here will meet their needs. This is the ammonium hydroxide, where we'll take anhydrous ammonia and we'll mix it with water to make ammonium hydroxide. And we'll scroll through and let you see the next room too, which is ammonium fluoride. You can see the sampling stations, the spill containment pits, the gas detection on the walls. And the little kiosk is the human machine interface where the operator will be able to monitor the process and optimize this batching process. This room right here is one of the rooms that is currently in construction. This is nitric acid distillation. So unlike the ammonia rooms where we're doing some gas absorption, now we're going to start to purify our acids using high temperature and boil the product, recover the vapor in distillation columns, and then filter it and then package it. This is a little hard to take a video of just because of the scaffolding and some of the support structures we had to put in place, getting ready to interconnect the process piping. Again, if you look at it, it's all stainless steel on the outside, but on the internal guts, it's all lined with high purity Teflon. This process is one of our exterior buildings. We also do solvent distillations. We're going to be looking at 3 distillation processes in this video. First one is HMDS, or hexamethyl disialazane. We'll be looking at ethyl lactate and also for cyclohexanone. Some of these materials are smaller quantities. These are done in typically drums or 1-liter containers. This room is really unique just because the other materials that we deal with are very strong acids or very strong bases. This room, because we're distilling flammable liquids, takes on a little different safety requirements in which we have to look at electrically rated or electrical hazard classifications for sparks or explosion suppression, etc. So we have a different type of gas detection in here, different type of equipment design, just to make sure that we don't have an incident regarding this type of material. You'll see in the background that the distillation units are pretty similar to if you take any chemistry classes where you're boiling and distilling and collecting, it's very similar. It's just been scaled up to an industrial scale to make these. The distillation units that we have for sulfuric acid are about 10 times bigger than this, but for the solvents, this will give you a good idea for this size of production that will be going. So the filling station looks like the Airstream unit there on the left, where we'll be filling in the drums and of the product. And then these are the distillation columns that we'll be loading up with chemistry in the next 3 weeks to start our first batches in R&D qualifications with our customers. And like I said, they're very similar to your high school or your college chemistry class looking arrangement for chemical trials that we used to do. This is our room, our sulfuric acid room. This is currently in construction. We've been working on this room for about 8 months now. Sulfuric acid is one of the primary materials chip manufacturers will utilize in their manufacturing process. This by far will be our biggest throughput of material in the plant every day. This is one of 4 trains that we envision to build here on site. We hope to look at building train number 2 late next year or early 2023. But we'll be taking sulfuric acid, which is a very aggressive material. It has a very low pH and a very high boiling point. But we'll be boiling sulfuric acid at 600 F to distill it and recover it. And then we'll filter it and then package it once it cools, obviously. But this gives you an idea of the infrastructure inside the room on trying to manage an aggressive chemical like that. Again, these vessels are all stainless steel, Teflon lined. The unique difference of the distillation columns in here, it uses pure quartz distillation columns. Your standard borosilicate glass would not withstand the distillation process. So we use pure quartz in these areas of distillation. Within the process, there's always double containment. There's also spill containment. There's separate isolated cooling loops So if there's ever a breach in the cooling system, it will never get back to the cooling tower. So we've done great lengths to really isolate these chemical rooms from supply and exhaust ventilation, let alone emergency ventilation. So we anticipate the sulfuric acid room to come online later on in July. We hope at the middle of July we'll be having customer samples available for our North America customers. This is another one of our process rooms that we will be utilizing to do some GAPS absorption. This permitting process is actually going to start taking place next month with the chemical accident prevention team down in Carson. We'll be working forward to doing the capital investment in this process. We got some of the tanks early on when the plant was being commissioned, but the integrated process piping and all the other cooling loops and whatnot will come on in our capital investment in Q1 of 2022. This is another unique room. We cover all the major acid groups. This is hydrochloric acid. Again, the hydrochloric acid is going through its permitting process with the state of Nevada. Unlike sulfuric acid, doesn't require that special permit. Hydrochloric acid will. Hydrochloric acid will be a smaller quantity produced, but is very necessary and unique manufacturing needs within the flat panel solar and microelectronics. But this gives you a rough idea of the room size and some of the initial heat exchangers and the holding tanks and the stripping columns that will go in. The towers that are shown in the background, will be supporting the glassware that will be used in the distillation process. I was really surprised to see, the solvent distillation units, they're about as tall as, I don't know, a big Christmas tree. But these guys in hydrochloric room, it's a quite different distillation process. These distillation columns will be 32 feet tall. So if you can envision glassware in the room in these structures, purifying that acid to parts per trillion levels with very low particle count. So this is something that we're very excited for. We're anticipating the startup of this process in Q3 of next year. And there's a lot to come here for AUECC. This is one of our holding tanks as well. This is for anhydrous ammonia. And, AUECC has done a lot of great things in regards to safety. Making chemicals of this nature is nothing new to us. So we've taken some of the best practice learnings that we did in Taiwan and China. And one of the things I wanted to point out is this emergency exhaust ductwork. If anybody's gone to a farm and seen anhydrous ammonia used, you'll see a tractor pulling a container and raking in the ammonia into the field. If there's ever a release, it goes to atmosphere. In our scenario here, we'll be able to recover the release through our wet scrubbing unit, and this is this ductwork in the back. So when our gas detection detects any ammonia vapor above a targeted level, our scrubber will ramp up and activate and start mitigating any release within this room. This is our packaging unit I'm going to walk you through here. So like I said a little bit earlier, we were able to fill a 1 gallon container. We can do a 55-gallon drum. We can do a 265-gallon IBC or intermediate bulk container, or one of our own fleet of our ISO containers, one of the 6,000-gallon portable tanks that we can move around the world. Here's one of our operators. This is very early in our commissioning. This is just fairly new, but you can see the clean room expectations where the operator really is not really his suit is protecting him, but it's protecting our chemistry from the particles that we may shed or introduce into our chemistry. Potassium, magnesium, calcium are all materials that at 10 parts per trillion, it takes one particle in 500,000 gallons could make a difference. In this room, it's all cleared for climate, meaning that we're also checking the air coming in and trying to reduce particle contamination. we're going to wash and fill with ultra pure water in each one of these ultra pure containers. And then we'll pull the screen down here when we're filling to protect the operator. The other unique thing with the system is we'll utilize barcoding and a key lock system when we fill the containers to make sure we don't cross mix any chemistry as we're filling in the various products in these drums. Once the products are packaged down the line, we're going to eventually have to load those onto pallets for our smaller quantities. You can see our drum crane there, staging materials. We'll palletize, stretch wrap, label for the DOT requirements, and get those ready for our dry van shipments to hit our customers. As the video takes us pointing up top, we by design, put our laboratory right above our packaging line for the sole purposes our customers expect not only in-process monitoring, but as we're filling our products, we want to do random samples for the beginning, middle, and end of the lots for traceability. Our lab is able to quickly grab samples and run it through the lab to make sure before we release these things for shipment that we've met the customer expectations. I'll move over to one of the ISO containers here as we're pulling it off one of the flatbed trucks that just dropped one of these units off, as we're training our team to utilize our crane, utilize our storage space within the building. You can see the scale in the background, a red scale. That's what we'll use to weigh the containers to fill content. And everything is done indoors. Again, it's for purity reasons that we want to make sure that we don't have the desert sand that we're surrounded by contaminating anything around the filling connections, around the filling ports, and so on. So that way, when they're on the road, they're ready to go. Here's a snapshot of three of our chemical storage rooms. We meet the H3 occupancy requirements. We're storing our materials. The rooms were designed for climate control to make sure that they don't get too warm and build a little pressure in the container, or they don't get too cold. The acetic acid likes to freeze right around 61 degrees F. So in the wintertime, it's something that we have to be conscious of. The rooms are also equipped with plenty of spill containment. And even in the event of a fire, if our sprinklers would come off, we're able to recover any fire water that would be dispensed in the room to an underground holding vault, along with the contents in the room. So by design, we are set up fairly well to be able to handle and store our products safely. I'll walk you a little bit through the lab. If you're making ultra pure products, you have to be able to validate the materials by a certificate of analysis. And we have a clean room lab that we believe is best in class to be able to measure down to the parts per trillion. This is a kind of envision, we'll show you a video of the operator walking through the door. The door is closed behind you for an airlock, and then you come in to do your laboratory work. The room is divided in half, and the room's divided in half for a couple reasons. We're trying to meet different clean room requirements. We have a class up here on the right. It talks about clean room and mini environments. We have a class 1000 wet lab. This is where you have your auto titrators and your fume hoods. We have a refractometer. We have a KF tool to measure water content. And then as we pass in through the room on your left, we're going to improve the number of particles per cubic meter floating in the airspace drastically improves by about almost 1,000% or 100%, I should say, to a clean room class 100. And then if we need to do any prep work where the chemical is sitting open versus in a closed container, we have a class 10 and class 1 mini environments to do any sample preparation or dilution of the material so we can safely process it in our equipment. And, as we talk about not only metal analysis down to parts per trillion, we also have to look at, particles floating around. So a micron, the human hair is around 50 microns that you can basically, below that, you really can't see. We're measuring particles in the 0.05 micron levels, and we're looking for content in that bin size and quantity of that bin size that has to meet a certain threshold for shipment to our customers. We use lasers and analyze the samples in order to count those particles and speciate those by size. These are some of the testing that we do with our products. Titration, turbidity, surface tension, density. Trace metals is very important to our customer. Again, if you're building a microchip or semiconductor that is 7 nanometers, you can't afford to have a small particle drop between that circuitry and short it out. So we're measuring our trace metals down below sub 10 ppt. And I put a little definition down below there. When we're looking at one drop of impurity in 500,000 barrels of water, or traveling 6 inches out of a 93 million mile journey to the sun, this is where when we talk ultra pure, this is what we're trying to achieve. Some of the inductive coupled plasma, the ICP testing machines here are best in class. We've gone to every great length to make sure our clean room labs meet the classification that they need, and also that the equipment monitoring the chemistry we're going to produce is highly reliable and can generate that reliable C of A for our customers. This will give you a walkthrough of the laboratory, and Kamaljit here is being our demo person. She's one of our chemists here. She is in the gowning station before she's entering the wet lab. And then once the wet lab door closes, we'll walk over and follow into the analytical lab where we do our trace metals testing. This will give you a rough idea of what we do in order to sample prep and measure our chemistry here at AUECC. So as I said, the suits are, she has protective covers on her hands for touching the chemistry, but the clean room bunny suit is there really to ensure that we don't introduce particle into the environment, and that's why those gowns are being worn. We're passing through the wet lab now and working our way over to the next airlock here. We'll go in and walk into the trace metals laboratory where we start to look at metal analysis. And this is where the clean room classification went from a class 1000 to a class 100. And inside the fume hoods, we're down to a class 10 and a class 1 clean room. All the furniture in there is by design, has very limited metal surfacing. It's all plastic for a reason, not only to handle any chemical contact, but to make sure there's no particle shed in it as well, and so on. Pretty much wraps up the presentation for today. This final segment just shows the global footprint of AUECC, and if you look at the challenges we've all heard on the news regarding importing products and where our products were coming from, it's good to see that footprint now here in North America, and we're excited to start servicing our customers as they're qualifying our products right now.
Hey, thanks, Jared. A bunch of people have put chat questions into the chat function, so I'll just go ahead and read some of those off to you, and you can maybe answer some of them.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So Rich Tower, he was asking, do you supply the mining industry at all?
Currently, we do not. Typically, our chemistry is ultra pure compared to industrial grade. But if the mining industry needs that, I'll call it that next level of purity, we would be definitely interested in conversations. There's a couple users in the industrial park here at USA Parkway that we believe will have a need for it. But because of the purity of our chemistry, most people don't need to pay that extra buck for what they're using it for in their application.
Okay. Tim Grant was asking, what MRP system are you guys using?
Sure. So we are using Oracle in Taiwan, and did not deploy that here in the U.S. at this time. We elected to go with Fishbowl for our short-term implementation, and we also use MapCon for our computerized maintenance management system. We look to pull the Oracle tool over in probably 2 years once we stabilize it in our Taiwan office.
Now, I think you mentioned that there was R&D work done in the facility, but that was a question of Rich's, if you guys are doing any R&D work there.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the blended compounds, the aluminum etches, the buffered oxide etchants, some of those we work in partnership with our fabrication shops, the fabs, in order to help dial in the chemistry that works best for the photolithography or the etching processes or the edge beads that they're taking place on the silicon wafers.
All right. So Bill Leonard was asking, does the Teflon degrade over time that's coating the tanks?
That's a good question. And the Teflon lining that we have put in our Taiwan office 20 years now is still in play. The regulators here in Nevada that we're asking from a mechanical integrity, that same question, how do you ensure as this very strong pH is flowing through that it's not degrading it? And so far from what we're seeing, there is no impacts in degrading that. We would see that, which is what we lobbied for with the state, is particle shed will occur. And since we're measuring particles in the nanometers and we're actually counting them, we'll start to see particle shed take place. And that will be a source of contamination for us that we'll address before we have a breach.
Okay. I've got a question for you. Did the fire department or does the fire department do any training in support of possible chemical spills or accidental exposure to the chemicals?
Yeah, that's a good question, John. Thank you. And I think we're very proud of our partnership with Story County. We do have a special use permit here in Story County. When we came to the county board, obviously there would be concerns about putting a chemical plant in. We worked very diligently with the county board, and there is requirements in our special use permit to supply our own emergency response and to do partner training with Story County Fire Department and also quad counties, right, from an emergency management. So we've had Joe Curtis here at our site helping us with our spill drills on weekends, practicing in our SCBAs and utilizing our hazmat response trailer. All of our employees are HAZWOPER trained at the moment. So we've been doing drills and preparing ourselves as the construction's going on. We utilized, the Halloween store fog machines. We've kicked over a drum full of water. We've done all of those little simulations to get our team comfortable with what they're working with. So if there is an event, we know what to do and we know how to handle it here.
Good. So let's see, Rich has another question. Are the containers vacuum sealed?
We pad them with nitrogen. So not only is the area, there is a ultra pure filter blowing clean air into the airspace to push out any particle shed and filter only in clean air as a micro clean room. We are padding the fill lance, will seal to the drum, and it will pump in and vacuum out the headspace. So basically it minimizes any, I'll call free air particles from falling into the containers.
Okay. And then Dave was asking, are the chemicals distilled just once or multiple times?
Since it's a batch process, if we need to rerun them through our batch tank, before we transfer them back into our holding tanks for final clearance of our C of A's, yes, we can redistill. Unfortunately, with some of the ammonia products, once you make them, what we would end up doing if it didn't meet spec, we would sell it off as a technical grade, a low grade versus an ultra pure grade.
Okay. I've got a question. So you were talking about the climate controlled rooms, because some of the chemicals freeze at a pretty high temperature. Are the trucks that transport these, are they all climate controlled then?
Not all of them, but some of them will. So sulfuric acid, different times of the year, our containers will go out. They have heating jackets around them. But if it was a tote or drum for acetic acid that's very sensitive to a cold temperature, we would put it in a refrigerated van to make sure, in a sense, it's maintained above its freezing point. And we also put data loggers on our shipment, so that way we can figure out what temperature is experienced on its way over to our customer.
All right. So the last question that I have in the chat is from Rich again. And he's pretty observant. So he noticed a garbage can in the clean room, and he asked what goes in there.
Garbage. Was it one of the buckets at the bottom?
Rich, can you clarify?
It literally was a trash can, a small black trash can with a plastic liner in it under one of the desks.
So when we collect our samples, they're usually packaged. We'll put them in a clean, washed out Nalgene kind of PTFE bottle. We will put that into like a Ziploc bag for transport, and that's where some of that is. Or some of we'll use like a syringe for injection or whatever. It's more of the internal lab waste. The paper in the lab is actually not even paper, it's lint-free paper, to make sure there's no particle shed from their documentation in their daily journals.
So Jamie asked, what kind of security do you have for entering the site and then the buildings?
Yeah, when I came here for my interview, I was like, wow, we have a 6-foot fence with razor wire. And the perimeter is fully fenced. We have video surveillance, and we have 24-hour security that makes rounds on the property. Once you're on site, you'll either be escorted or we'll go through a clearance with you if you're going to work independently. We're currently making sure our site security plan and also cyber security plans are really in place to protect our business. So those are things that we're actually currently kind of polishing up and cleaning up and making sure that we have the right safeguards in place for entry, making sure nothing leaves that shouldn't leave, that's not on a bill of lading, and vetting out people who are coming on site.
So yeah, if you guys want to unmute and ask questions of Jared too, you can do that. I got one more in the chat, and then if you guys want to unmute and ask questions, that's great. So Peter asked, Peter Fishburne, do you ship all across the country?
We can. We would use intermodal going to the East Coast. Most of the fab shops are kind of lining up between Washington and Austin, Texas. There are a couple on the East Coast. This industry, we're very lucky to be partnered with a very small group of customers. We don't have hundreds of customers. There's very few high-end semiconductor chip manufacturers in North America. So we're really we have monthly calls with them to talk and discuss, and they will come and audit us. So it's a very small group that we're dealing with.
All right. Any other questions, you guys? Yep.
What does C of A, is that what you were saying?
Yeah, a certificate of analysis. And a certificate of analysis will track the customer expectation, and whatever we measure in the laboratory, we'll put down the results next to their expectation to make sure we've met their qualifications for use. And it's like a birth certificate that follows each lot of material to the customer. And we track those C of A's to make sure over time that we're staying and conforming within the upper and lower control limits that we've set up for that customer.
I was curious, Jared, are there a lot of, you have a lot of competitors, or is this a very unique business? It sounds like it's a very unique business and very expensive to set up. So does anybody else do this in the United States?
So there was about 5 suppliers that can do an aspect or two. I think there's only one supplier that can do the full, I'll call it the full offering. Honeywell recently left, if I understand, left the industry. So we're looking to hopefully move into the number 2 spot in supply chain with the full launch of the business, which will happen in about a year and a half. So yes, it's very unique, just because the fabrication shops, it's a very, we're talking the Intels, the Samsungs, Texas Instruments, Tower Jazz, Micron. They're very unique in their own selves as well, right?
There was a company I heard that is based in Taiwan that does a lot of chips that was supposedly building a facility in Phoenix or New Mexico or in New Mexico. Are you familiar with them, or would you be supplying them with these chemicals?
Yes, TSMC is the one that's been all over the news and the announcement of, I think looks like they're targeting Phoenix for their next big investment. I'm hearing it's between 20 and 25 billion from what I've read. So yeah, it's very exciting for for Arizona. We're talking billions, not millions. So it's very exciting. Yeah, we hope to be a part of that without a doubt.
How many employees do you have, and what kind of technical levels are they at?
Sure. Hopefully you saw my little plug at my last slide that we're still hiring. So we're still looking for employees. We're 37 strong. We're interviewing for various levels in the plant. We're looking for operators to do the filling, loading, running the process itself. We're looking for customer service. We're looking for maintenance technicians. We're looking for an engineer. So we're filling at all levels. And as we finish completion of a room, we qualify the room, we get into production, it's going to continue to onboard new team members. And the business plan shows us all out, we'll be around 150 employees running a 365 operation.
Are you being successful getting employees from our area, or are they having to come from outside of this area?
I think everybody's in the same challenge of trying to recruit right now. It's been a very difficult climate to fill these positions that are have some more skill in the operator level, and then what some industries will need, with the safety expectations, working around the materials that we're dealing with, and ensuring the quality needs that we need. Reno in the past had not been geared up as a Houston, Texas might have been with their petro industry. So, but we're willing to work with folks that have a good work history that we think that we can adapt and train and get them in here. And I believe that our pay and our benefit structure, that we worked hard to hopefully stand out differently than some of the other industries local to us, that really make us a great place to work and be and retire at. I'm very confident of that, of what we put in place to attract candidates.
I have a question.
Yeah, I think their compensation structure is pretty nice for this area. I think they're looking for the right people, and so the offering is there. So, if you know of good candidates, I think it's going to be a great place to be and to work.
Question? Can anyone hear me? I hope.
Yep. Go ahead, Bill.
I have a question regarding the trucks and transportation from the facility. Is some type of, I would guess, GPS tracking system mandated by your company to that whoever is transporting the chemicals, they know where that truck is at any point in time, 24/7?
Yeah, so luckily for right now, we've only done just a few shipments and our qualifications at very low volumes. But GPS and onboard computers are pretty standard now. And those are some of the expectations that we're making sure that we can follow our product to the customer. We have appointment delivery targets that we have to hit because they're expecting it. But our company, with our Taiwan operation, has really gone to great lengths to look at transportation safety. We're trying to currently partner with trucking companies here that have the technology that you're talking about. But also, we just don't want to give somebody the material and close the door and tell them, here's the address. We want to educate them about the chemistry they're hauling, making sure they have the proper placarding, have the proper safety data sheets. But we're also asking them, what are they doing for their own driver safety training? How are they monitoring violations? How are they monitoring the inertia switches inside the truck? So if they've hard braked or if they turn too sharply, there's onboard monitoring now that they have, along with camera systems. Forward-facing cameras, in-cab cameras, and side cameras. Those are things that we're asking for due to the nature of our products, that we really want to make sure they're equipped like we are for handling those. And that's one of the initiatives that we've been working on in our Taiwan office has been doing for years now. The roadways in Taiwan are significantly different than in the US, but nonetheless, here we still want to deploy those same requirements.
I have one more question, and that is, Jared, I didn't catch what your title was. What is
Oh,
your
sure.
organization there?
Yes, I'm the plant manager of the Reno facility.
All right. Well, listen, Jared, we really appreciate you hosting. Pretty interesting stuff. It's great to see companies like yours come into the area. So thank you again. And everybody else, thanks for coming and enjoying it.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.